Curse or no curse, you're mine, baby,
he thought to himself.
That is until I trade you in for a cool $3 million.
As he picked up the sword and put it into the duffel bag, he felt once again that overwhelming surge of energy. If he understood that it came from the departed captain's soul, it was not a conscious awareness. Malice had only the sketchiest knowledge of the legend. He knew nothing of the properties of the soul taker. Suddenly he heard a movement, and the lights in the security cargo hold area went out. He frantically fumbled inside the pockets of his cargo pants for a flashlight. Then came another sound, a strange bone-cracking rattle, as if something was extricating itself from the stone coffin.
It's only a legend. It's only a legend. Just a myth, nothing more.
He forced a hollow laugh out of himself, trying to pretend he wasn't becoming more terrified each passing second in the pitch-black cargo hold. Finally, his hand found the flashlight in his right leg pocket.
Okay.
He whispered to himself.
When I turn this on, nothing will be there. It's all in my mind.
He switched on the flashlight at the doorway he was facing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Malice sighed deeply, suddenly feeling stupid, and he laughed now with relief.
Geez, I must be a damn moron to think for 1 minute. But wait.
He remembered with a start.
That sound, what was that?
There it was again, that creepy bone-crackling noise right behind him. And this time he dropped the flashlight to the deck floor. Malice froze. Just as suddenly the sound stopped.
No, it's not happening,
he told himself.
It's just a figment of my imagination.
And yet, as he said it, his shaking hand groped for his gun. He somehow managed to pull it from its holster and aim it into the darkness.
Go back to hell!
Malice screamed as he readied to fire, but something grabbed his arm with a grip so tight that it made him drop the gun instantly. He stooped quickly to pick it up with his other hand, but found the dropped flashlight instead. Now he shone the light on the thing that had such a mighty grip on his arm. What he saw was more frightening than death itself. A grotesque, part skeletal, part flesh figure stood before him. Malice knew at that moment, and without question, that it was the warlord sage and that the curse was indeed true.
Give me the sword, now.
The body of the warlord said in a deep, raspy voice that chilled Malice to the marrow of his bones. Sage tightened his grip, twisting and bending until Malice's right arm seemed ready to snap.
Take it! Take it!
He yelled out in unbearable pain, dropping the duffel bag off his shoulder to the floor. Sage released his forceful grip. Then the decrepit body reached into the bag to remove his weapon. Sage looked at his precious blade in all its brilliance. Malice had seen his chance to save his skin. With the flashlight as his guide, he made a mad dash out the vaults, cradling his arm as he shouted to the crew.
Everybody out of here! Get off the boat now!
Malice found another stairway to the upper decks. Hope flickered in his heart as he took a flying leap to the first step. But then came a whooshing sound behind him, and he felt something else in his heart. He looked down, surprised to see the tip of the warlord's sword sticking halfway out of his chest. In his shock, Malice only marveled that it had cut so cleanly, not even a drop of his own blood on it. Then he fell over to his side. He did not see the luminescent blue light of his soul leaving his own body because for the moment he was dead. He did not see it flow like thick, ghostly lava into the warlord's sword, nor did he hear the rattling bones that walked towards him. Sage pulled the sword from Malice's body, and now the light flowed through him, giving him life. He watched his flesh return to his near-skeletal remains, filling out his hands that gripped the sword, then spreading to his arms, his shoulders, and his torso. It felt delicious. Mayhem was already back on the speedboat, unhitching the rope that moored it to the freight. When he heard the sounds of the massacre that shook the hull of Dragon Feather, shouting, gunfire, screams, then all was over and all was quiet again. He looked up for any sign of his team joining his escape, but saw something else. The dusty armor was familiar, but the face was somehow different, younger. But wait, there had been no face before, only shreds of rotted flesh and petrified bones, and now the eyes of this monster were glowing blue and gazing down at him. Mayhem felt his knees quake.
Don't go away, Mayhem!
The warlord sage shouted as he smiled broadly.
Take witness of my wonders.
Mayhem thought to himself, then put the engine into full throttle and sped away. Sage watched the speedboat skim across the waters and disappear from sight. Then he saw his hands gripping the deck railing and marveled how fine and strong they looked. He felt his face with his hands and laughed in giddiness.
I live again. I live again.
He roared with laughter, rejoicing in the sensation of air filling his once petrified lungs, rejoicing in the new start of the building of a new empire for the demon world, to once again rule the living and extend his immortality. The dragon feather was getting closer to land as dawn approached. As Sage took witness of the mighty structures of the island, overwhelmed by such monumental structures that scraped the sky, he debated whether to swim to shore or to simply enjoy the ride aboard the unmanned freighter. He decided on the latter. Why get wet? He hummed contentedly to himself as a voice from the demon world guided him into New York City.
Dragon feather, this is New York Port Authority. Cut your engines. You're coming in too fast. Dragon feather, respond please.
Getting no response, the Port Authority went on collision alert. The freighter was only a half mile from port and still traveling at 1/4 speed.
Clear docks! Alert! Clear docks! Level 1 alert! Clear all docks!
The dock supervisor's voice screamed over the outdoor speakers. Everyone working on the dock scrambled off as the spotlights beamed on the grayish hull of the dragon feather. Then it happened, what all dock workers feared. With a sickening crunch, the freighter crashed into the pier, ripping everything in its destructive path. Docks were smashed like sticks, fuel tanks exploded, and dock workers screamed into the chaos. The ship finally came to a stop when it ran aground and lifted to the side. Soon after, there was a frenzy of reporters and emergency vehicles on the scene. None of the dock hands were hurt, but the chief of homicide found a mass murder on his hands when he and his team went aboard the Dragon Feather. They were trying to piece together what happened and why there was over 30 dead bodies with wounds seemingly inflicted from a very sharp blade or sword. Only one person was dead from a gunshot wound to the back of the head, though there were bullet casings littering much of the outside area of the cargo hold. The investigators figured that the person or persons who killed all these people had to be an expert swordsman to take down 9 armed men.